This is Mr. Bennett Howell, and as I told you, he was a tail gunner on a bomber that flew over Germany, was shot down in early 1945 over Germany, and you'll hear some of his story. And so we'll just go ahead, and we've got the tape going. Just for starters, and here's how the process will work. I'll just sort of ask questions. We'll just go back and forth that way. And then I'd say probably about 35 after, we'll see if there are questions in the crowd. And if so, then we'll include that in the conversation we're having. We have a map here that we'll get to in a minute, but for starters, I just want to ask some basic questions just to sort of set the stage. How old were you? Now, first, did you enlist in the Army, or did you get drafted?
I volunteered when I was in high school.
Okay, how old were you?
I was about 17.
Now, and this year, what was the year?
Well, it'd be 43.
So the war started in 39.
No, 41.
Well, for us, it started in 41.
Yeah.
Right. In Europe,
39, yeah.
Europe it started in 39.
So at the time of Pearl Harbor, I was 15 years old. And I said, they don't have to commit. You don't always get it.
Now, you volunteered, is that because you knew you'd be drafted anyway?
Oh, yeah. And first thing, in World War II, everybody was in part of the war. The civilians, the military, and everybody. And anybody that was 18 years old was drafted into the service. Now, there were some exceptions that you get, but very few things you get a thing. The only thing you get a deferment if you were working in a critical industry or something like that.
So, for example, you wouldn't have to go in the service if you served in what kind of industry? If you were a farmer?
Well, some farmers, if you worked in an assembly line making war equipment, and civilians also suffered. It was not at all like, in your lifetime, you had guns and butter, I think the phrase that you used. In this war, you have not really participated in it at all. You haven't had anything. In that time, they rationed tires, they rationed gasoline. They stopped building automobiles. All the plants went to the paints. And it was a total effort.
So car plants became tank plants
Or whatever. You might say for our industry, Henry Ford started building airplanes even before the war and developed a plant especially for that.
Now, so you signed up for the Army Air Force, and what did you want to do?
I wanted to fly a plane and kill a Jap,
You wanted to
just like everybody else.
So you wanted to know, why was your attention on fighting Japan rather than Germany?
Well, that was just the first thing. Let me give you a little bit of background before the war, if I may. My dad was an isolationist.
Meaning he did not want to be involved.
Meaning that we did not want to involve ourselves in European politics. And I think that came from Washington when the nation was founded. That, you know, why should we get into Napoleonic Wars? Why should we bother with Europe? Of course, in those years, the United States was so small, it really wouldn't make any difference anyway. We couldn't fight. So anyway, we were out. And then when Pearl Harbor was bombed, and Japan actually bombed Pearl Harbor and on the West Coast and so forth, then the war became real to us. And then almost everybody wanted to get the war over, fight it. And unconditional surrender was Roosevelt's idea, but it was our idea too. We all had that same idea.
When did you, or what did you think when you learned that you weren't going to go to the Pacific, but instead you were going to go to the Atlantic to fight the war?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that. It was some disappointment because, as I said, I wanted to go to the Pacific. First thing, I found out I couldn't be a pilot. And the reason for it, at that time, they had already developed so many pilots. It took 2 years to get a pilot into combat. And it took about 8 months to get a gunner into combat. So I went to a center where they classified us, and they washed us all out as pilots. All this junior birdman that I was in high school was over.
So by the time you got to Europe and began flying missions over Germany, you were 18 then?
That's right.
And what was your job?
No, I was 19.
19 by that.
Because I was born in October.
Okay. And your job was tail gunner. What what role did the person play who was the tail gunner?
Okay, in those days, in the days of the propeller of different airplanes, and what they have today, I don't know, because it's a big modern world. Passed me kind of like a computer. But in those days, a plane would always come in and your bomber sitting here. And let me tell you, our objective was not to shoot down planes. Our objective was to get home, drop our load and get home, and bomb it in the next day. We didn't really care how many we shot down. We didn't paint.
Keeping track of how many missions.
Well, I think it was just a morale thing, that we're good. So,
But the system was if you flew a certain number of missions,
that's right.
then you go
If I flew 35 missions, I could go home.
What do you know what the percentage of crews that got to 35 and went home? Of roughly what the percentage was that made it to that number?
Probably about 4 or 5%.
4 or 5%. So not
It wasn't a no healthy environment. We lost about 3% of missions. So you divide 3% into 35, and you see that I'm not going to make it. But we did, because there's a lot of people that went down on the first and second mission. And, averages are two funny things. But
so when your plane, the plane you were on was shot down, it was your 15th.
it would have been my 15th.
Could you show us on the map just sort of based on where you started?
Okay,
where you were when you got shot down?
Yeah. Okay, I was at Kim Bolton, which is a little town north of London. I was in the 8th Air Force, and 379th Bomb Group, but the 4th Division was here. And then my mission that day was to Berlin. We were the first plane, I can give you a little more detail in, but we were the lead ship in the lead group. We weren't the lead ship, but we were in the lead group of the first 1,000 plane raid to Berlin. And so we were going to come in, we came across the Netherlands, and we're coming on into that. And we picked up a little flak here, but it was incidental.
And flak is, that's
flak is a gun that they shoot up. The Germans had 88s, so they'd come up and when they fire and explode up in the air, while you see little black puffs. And on some missions, why we used to say we was so thick we could almost walk on it. Some of it, why you'd be in the plane and you'd hear it whistle through the plane as it came through.
So this mission, you had to go all the way to Berlin.
That's right. It was a 10-hour, proposed to be a 10-hour mission.
And you said in the memoir that you wrote that when you went to the briefing, you were told that you were going to Berlin, that you realized that this was a more serious mission
That's right.
than what you've been on before. Why was that?
Well, first thing, if anything was defended, this Berlin was going to have beautiful defenses. It wouldn't be a milk run where there was no flak guns there at all, and you just went and dropped your bombs and came home. And second thing, it's a long mission, and it's going to be all the play across enemy territory. All of this is enemy territory here.
So in the course of that flight from north of London to Berlin, suppose you made it all the way to Berlin, how much of that 10-hour time would your plane be under fire?
Under fire?
Yeah.
Oh, probably about 6 hours.
6 hours.
Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to be fired on because there's farmland and every place else. But the Germans had this 88 gun, which was far superior to what we had. They had better armament than we did, the Germans. Basically because they've been probably thinking about war longer than we had. But I don't know. But this 88 later, we put a 90 millimeter. But the 88, they could defend towns with it. They could put it on a tank, and when you blew across the tank could fire at you. And
Now, what sort of targets did these bomber missions go after?
okay, the first target we had was December 24th, Christmas Eve, and we hit Cologne, which is about right in here someplace. And that was, I don't know in history or you remember, or you've probably seen some movies on the Battle of the Bulge. And what we were trying to do was to stop the flow of goods and supplies to the German
Could you
troops.
just tell the students real quick, for those who don't know, basically what the Battle of the Bulge was and why it was such a serious threat?
Well, it was Hitler's last charge in which he tried to defeat us. And they had an area right in here, and I'm not sure, it's about right in here, in which our people felt that it was pretty quiet, there wasn't much going on. And they put real raw troops in there that just got over.
Because they thought the Germans had
Yeah, they thought it was just all in there.
front.
And let them be in the front lines without much activity. And one of them was the 106th Division in that area. And so Hitler, or the Sein von Rundstedt, who was the head of the tank commands, put a tank and put together a large tank force and came in, and they were driving to get gasoline, and I'm quoting the movie if you're getting it, because I know more about it from the movie than otherwise, to get gasoline and supplies to keep on going. And they felt that they could delay the war quite a bit. I don't know, they might have thought they could have won it, but I
So part of your mission was to bomb the advancing Germans
We
and
bombed,
slow them
we,
down.
well, we bombed railroad yards
Okay.
to stop the flow of supply. Now, I can tell you a humorous thing about that. One of them was the bridge that crossed on the Rhine at Cologne. And we were bombing that bridge. We made several missions to bomb that bridge. And we had beautiful bomb sites, and everybody had wonderful things that the bridge was hit, and it was beautiful. We did a good job. Later, as a prisoner, I crossed that bridge in the train. So we
I
missed.
realized you never hit.
We never
So,
did.
so okay, you first then hit the troops here in this area, and then supposing you keep moving on to Berlin, then what other sort of sites would you
Well,
go?
no, on there's Mersburg, and it's over in here, ball bearing plant. Down here is the Pulaski oil fields, which you probably heard. We did not do that.
Those were you guys from Italy flying out.
Yeah, they did do that. We hit Kassel, which is in the central part of Germany, which was, I don't remember what they were making, but mainly we were after manufacturing and transportation. We tried to, and then we hit Berlin to try and get Germany to surrender. I mean, I'll be honest with you, we bombed it. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. You have watched the Iraq War, and I have, and they had instruments that were so superior that they could almost hit a fly on a desk, I guess. We didn't have that. We had a Northern bomb site, which the lead ship had. The rest of us didn't have bomb sites. And he would line up and bomb the target when he got it, and he'd let it go, and when his bombs didn't have any bombs in it, they just had smoke trails. And when we saw the smoke trail, the nose gunner in our ship, we called him a toggler. He would toggle the bombs, and down they would go, and we had 36 ships in our formation, and all 36 ships of the bombs would all go at one time. And we wouldn't bomb a certain thing, we'd bomb an area. Because first thing, we weren't super accurate, and so shoot.
Did you ever think about, maybe when you got home on the first 14 missions, did you ever think about what was down there? Or did you,
No.
you didn't just didn't worry about it?
No. Our part of the war, it was different, and we knew that we were captured, but we weren't part of it. It's not like the infantry that were. No. Matter of fact, as the Air Force, if we weren't in combat, we lived pretty nice, pretty comfortable. I mean,
Unlike the guys in the front line.
not like that. We had a mess hall, and we had rec rooms, and we had pool tables, and we could go to town and move it up for a weekend or something like that. We got a pass.
I want to ask you a question, and then we'll get to the particular mission and
Okay.
to the experience of being shot down and all that. And go back to the first mission that you flew.
Yes.
And the first time your plane caught flak, and the first time you realized that those Germans down there really do want to kill you. How did you think about that, or what went through your mind at the time? Did you ever get used to the flak coming out? Did it actually become sort of routine?
No, we never enjoyed it, if you mean that. I mean, it was not a pleasant thing. We pretty well felt that was for the other guy, not me.
You mean to get killed?
That's right. It's kind of like in life, you see people that got killed in an automobile accident. Well, you weren't a part of it. so you just dismiss it in your mind. However, when you're on the road, you're still in the same danger that he was. I mean, I don't know if my analogy's right, but we just felt like, well, you know, I've got luck and so forth.
So from your place in the back of the plane, you saw other American planes get shot out of the
Yes,
sky?
sir. Yes, sir.
Do you remember how many you saw get shot at?
No, I don't have them. Probably 15, 20, maybe more.
And sometimes you see parachutes come out of the planes and
Sometimes you see parachutes come out, sometimes you wouldn't. A bomber that got hit and loses its engine is going to go into a spin. And once it gets in the spin, you can't get out of the plane. It just throws you against it. You're at the centrifugal force. And so you're stuck.
Now the plane you were on, apparently the Germans reported that it exploded in midair.
Yes, I got that from captured German reports on the natural planes.
So you got out. Now how many total were there on the plane and how many got out?
There were 9 of us on the plane, 5 of us got out.
5 got out.
Of the 5, 2 of them were injured, myself being one. The other one got a 9.9 millimeter shell in his back.
And is he still disabled as a result of that?
Yes, I talked to him 2 or 3 years ago.
So, all right, so let's go to mission 15 then, and you just want to take it from here and just sort of tell the students.
Well, I'll breathe it in. You can ask questions if you want to.
Okay.
Basically, it was a mission to Berlin, but the story needs to start just a little bit before that. About 3 or 4 missions before that, a hot pilot came over to the United States. He said he could take over off the runway with a half runway with a full load of bombs. And he did. But he didn't stay airborne, and he smashed into my squadron area and blew it to smithereens. So we were at the Red Cross Club then because we had no place to stay, and they just bunked us there. And anyway, at the Red Cross Club, I got into a poker game. I supplied all the money that the guys took home up to then. I won. I paid off all my local debts. I had 85 pounds. Now, I'm 19 years old. It's depression. 85 pounds times 416. What is that? Real quick. $300? That's more money than I ever saw in my life. I mean, you got it. And so I wasn't supposed to have it on me, but I did. I mean, you're not supposed to carry any money with you, but I did. And so the radio operator and I broke the poker game up at about 2 o'clock and decided we'd volunteer for a mission so that we could get a mission ahead of our pilot so I wouldn't have to fly with one of those green crews coming over to the United States because they're scared all the time and I didn't want to be scared with them. I'd rather be with more experienced crew.
So you were eager to get to your 35th.
Well, what happens is the pilot had 2 missions ahead of me because your pilot doesn't fly with you at first. He flies as co-pilot with somebody else. And then that means then that you're in the pool to go with whoever. So we thought we'd go ahead and volunteer for this mission. Now, we had no idea what it was. And so I went and got in bed, and I'll swear within a half hour by somebody tapped me on the shoulder and told me to go to briefing. I went over and had breakfast, had a nice breakfast, got into the briefing room and met my crew. I couldn't remember them. I just saw them that one time. And then, as I said in the thing, they had a big map of the German, just like we have here, maybe a little bit bigger. And they had a curtain over. And when you flew a mission, they had taken yarn and showed a line from Kimbolton to some point over to here, and back the flight direction. When they drew that back, and we saw it with Berlin, we were scared. Everybody. And the crowd was joking and jovial in the morning, and when they blew that back, why, it got silent. Nobody said a word. And we went out to get on our plane, and nobody said a word. And the ground crew noticed it, and they noticed that we were. And then the plane that I was supposed to fly, there was something wrong with it. And so they put me on another plane, which was the Birmingham Jewel, which is one of the most highest, has the best record of any plane flying in Nazi Germany, at 128 missions. And we took it to glory. But But at any rate, so we put it on that, and we had no time. I just got there, and the armor loaded my guns and everything, and pretty soon a very pistol flare goes off, a little red thing, and I'm on the runway taking off. The takeoff was uneventful. We got through a cloud cover, we got to about 8,000 feet, and then we formed into our formation going across it. Now,
How many planes are in this
there's
formation?
36 planes in a group,
Okay.
and then there's 4 groups in a division, and then there's 4 divisions in the Air Force. You just give you a little bit. But anyway, so we get all these planes and get in formation. Now, a German fighter doesn't have a chance if he attacks a formation. He's going down. He may take a B-24 with him, or a B-17 with him, but
Because he's got so many guns.
that's
carried
right.
out.
That's right. Look, we've got 36 planes. I got twin 50s in the tail. There's twin 50s in the upper. There's a 50 in the waist. And by the time he's coming through, he's just got so many planes that even somebody that doesn't even blind hits him. I mean, just not a thing. So he would hesitate to come through. Anyway, our mission, we got a little flak coming over, not much. We got to the IP, which is the initial point where you turn into your bomber run. Now, that is the point where the navigator, the bombardier, the lead plane, takes over flying the plane, and then you can't take any evasive action. There are certain things we can do to get out. If the flak's coming into you and you're experienced, those flaks are in 4 batteries, four guns, and they fire processing. So if you see a flak here, a flak there, and a flak there, it doesn't take a brain to figure out where the next one's going to be. So you yell to a pilot, jump, and he pulls ahead and he jumps himself 200 feet. It blows up right underneath you, and you may have a little flak come through the skin, but you're still attacking, still flying. But you've got ammunition all over the plane. You've made a big mess. But anyway, we got to the initial point, and the plane, our plane had something wrong with it. I'm not sure what, and I'm not sure to this day. But anyway, the pilot felt that he couldn't make it. He was on his 35th mission. He feathered an engine, and then he made the decision he didn't want to go across the target on 3 engines. So he aborted. Now, this crew had aborted several times before, or had gone.
Meaning they
Got out of
stopped
formation
and
and came back. And they came back through Germany before and never hit any fighters or anything else. So they got worried then whether they were going to get mission credit. Now, if they don't get mission credit, they got to fly it all over again. And they didn't want to do that. So they decided that we would go back across Germany, the northern route. The other route was coming back south, get over the North Sea, and then find some group and join them and come on in with them and tell them that we've bombed the mission. They'd probably be so flat happy they wouldn't know if we were with them or not. Or if we knew what group we wanted. That's kind of story I won't go into.
You had to get rid of your bombs too before you...
Well, yeah, we didn't want them because they were dangerous. The bombs are all armed, really, and the flight engineer defuses the bombs just before bomb. I mean, as a rule, so that they aren't going to go off. Well, we unarmed them and dropped them, and I don't know where. We were someplace in Germany. We were probably in this area right in here. But so then we started flying back, and the navigator got lost. The pilot and the navigator had a fight, and so forth. And then we got up about here, and all of a sudden, like 3 ME-109s broke to our side.
Those are German fighters?
German fighters. And anyway, so they came in at us, and when I fired my guns, they didn't fire. Now, there's a thing called a short round, which means the projectile didn't sit all the way into the cartridge just right. And when that cartridge fires, it's gas operated, it allows the gas to come over and jams the gun. So anyway, the fighter came in, he came in real close. Matter of fact, I could see his eyeballs almost. He was sitting so close to me.
Right behind.
Right behind me. And he was just pumping me with 9.9 millimeter cannons. Fortunately for me, the plane I had was an older plane and had some good armor plate. And I took several hits on that armor plate, but I didn't get hurt.
How far is that armor plate from your gun?
That far. 8 or 9 inches.
So the fighter bullets are hitting that, but they're not getting...
And he hit other thing. So anyway, he pulled off, and I I thought, well, I've got to get ready, and I pulled the gun up. I didn't look at where I was going, and I recharged it. I pulled the ammunition belt, and I got those rounds out of there, and I was ready for him when he got back in. But nobody came in. And I looked back, and I could see the plane was a little bit on fire. And we were on some smoke coming out. Then I saw white puffs coming out. And when I said, then it dawned on me, that was my crew leaving the plane. And I was all alone. And so, anyway, the bailout button was either not pulled or didn't work, but I didn't hear it. Okay, now, as any 19-year-old with that kind of experience, I just went all to pieces and panicked. I pulled my oxygen mask off. We're at 26,000 feet. This is a non-pressurized plane, because we didn't have pressurized planes in those days until B-29 or so. And so, we've gone in, it's about 60 degrees below zero. And I've got a heated suit. Well, I pulled my oxygen mask off and got a hold of my parachute, and then I don't know if you're familiar, but if you don't have oxygen, you get kind of like a cheap drunk. It really, your mind doesn't seem clear. You can't write your own name. Everything is kind of fuzzy. Well, I knew I had an oxygen. I knew that I goofed. But I thought, well, I could pull the cord. And on the back tail gun, there's a big red handle on the tail door. And you pull that, it pulls the hinges out of the door flies out so that you get out of there. I pulled out, I didn't have enough energy to pull the handle, it wouldn't come off. And so then I pushed the door open and I could get a little crack open. And I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I know kind of what happened is the pilot chute. How many of you are familiar with parachutes? You, okay. The pilot chute came out. The pilot chute ripped the cords on the main chute. And the main chute, and then I came out like a bat out of hell. I mean, I was just sucked out of that plane. And when I get out, I find out that part of the panels in the plane parachute are shot out. I missed about 3. And I only put 1 D-ring on. So the pack is way up there, 10 feet up above me, and I'm just hanging on the cord. And so, and this business of guiding your chute, well, with 1 cord, you don't have much to guide by.
And you were wounded as well, right? But you didn't
Well,
know
at that time, I didn't know I was wounded. My face had gotten burned, partially because I had that dang oxygen mask right in front of me, and I was feeding oxygen to my face through the middle of a fire, which is about the dumbest thing you can do. But anyway, so it took me about 25 minutes to come down. I was at about 26,000 feet, and you math, it's 5,000, 250 feet, 5,380 feet per mile. So you can see, anyway, we're about 5 miles up in the air. The plane drifted down. It drifted down, and I knew that if I landed, I was coming down too fast. And I kind of got woozy, but then at lower altitude, I got some air with oxygen in it. And I kind of came to. But I could see I was going to land, and I landed in trees. And that's the worst thing that happened to you, except in my case. In my case, the trees caught my chute, it bent over, I went down towards the ground, and then I came back up again, and I was hanging in the middle there in this chute. And so then I figured I had to get out. Well, I could hit a D-ring and get out of the harness. But that means I'd free fall down there. It was only about 10 feet. I don't think I had enough guts to do it. So I thought I'd pull little branches and get to big branches, and then I'd wrap my legs around the big branch that you can get rid of it, and then shimmy down the tree. And then all this pulling and jerking and so forth, the chute came down, and I came down, and I fell. And I came down, and I had that big white chute ran around me, and I thought I was in heaven. But I wasn't. I buried my chute, and then I had this great plan, which a 19-year-old would have come up with, that I was down somewhere in here, as best I can tell. And I had all that nice money on me, and I could just take that money and walk me to Denmark, drive a guy with a boat, he could take me over to Sweden, and I could stay in those fancy hotels they have for the rest of the war. Sounds like a good plan. But, like all plans, I didn't take into account that I had been burned, and I was having problems. I can remember the first night, when I first got down, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I tunneled a hole in a haystack and slept in a haystack. Oh, by the way, this is February 3rd, northern Germany, and we're in cold weather. And also, I didn't have any shoes. My flying boots came off when the parachute jerked me out of the plane. So I didn't have anything but felt heated boots, which was a piece of felt. So anyway, I got out of that, and then I thought, well, if I'm going to make it, I'm going to make it at night. So at night, it got dark at around 7 or 8 o'clock, whenever. And I started walking, and I walked pretty good. I got out my escape kit on my thing to see what was there. I had maps of Africa down here, and Italy, and southern France, nothing of Germany. And I had some pills and so forth. I did take some
Caffeine pills?
I took some caffeine. Well, there were pills to keep me from going to sleep, but I think they were caffeine. But anyway, I took a lot of those, which I later shouldn't have, because I needed to go to sleep, and I didn't. But anyway, and I started walking. And I walked to a town, and there's Germans right there, and here I am in a flying suit, and I'm the enemy, and they can see that I'm a flyer and everything. Nobody bothered me. I just walked right on through.
Do you think you're in a mild state of shock? Just sort of out of your
That's
mind
right.
a little
And
bit?
rather than, by the way, this story I'm telling you is something that happened 19 years, some 60 years later. So there might be some inaccuracies.
Yeah.
But anyway, G2, which is the intelligence center of the base, had advised us that if we get in trouble, why we can get a farmhouse close to a town, and they could be sympathetic with our cause and would help us. So I did, and they didn't. And they sent me to the work mark of the People's Army, and pretty soon I met the rest of my crew that got out. They were there. And so I'm in Javenstadt, which is about right in here.
So at that time, and I'll ask a question, then we'll
Okay,
see
go
if
ahead.
folks have a question here. So you go to a farmer's house, they turn you over to the military authorities, and now you're a prisoner of war.
That's right.
Did you know that now that you're a prisoner of war that you were out of danger, or did you think that you might still lose your life?
Well, I don't remember. I was in pain. I don't know if you're familiar with burns, but burns cause pus to come out. And the reason I gave up is my eyes closed out and I couldn't see. That pus to come down over my face. And they bandaged my face and so forth. But, I don't know what, I'm in a strange world. I'm the enemy. And I knew it. So I was with the rest of my crew, and I don't remember any terrific feeling. I'm sure, I think I was scared all the time I was there.
And how long, you were a prisoner of war for how long?
85 days.
85 days. And in how many different prison camps?
6.
6. Why? Why did you keep getting moved
Well-
from one camp to another?
Well, okay, after I left that, I got on a train, and they sent me to Frankfurt on the Oder, which was an German interrogation center. And there I was interrogated by a German army. And thank goodness I didn't know anything, because I probably told them that I didn't. I don't know. But anyway, the interrogation officer, I was from Chicago, and he was from Chicago. And he wasn't just reading a book about it. He knew the bars, he knew the area, he knew where the Coliseum was. He knew every detail. And I was a special delivery postman when I was in high school. I worked on weekends. And I knew the area well, and he did too. But anyway, then he spoke perfect English, and he had the same rank as I did. He was a sergeant. And so anyway, and finally, I guess when he didn't feel he could get anything, he said he'd send me to a hospital, which he did. And I got in this hospital, there was no doctor in it. It was just a German medic. No, British medic. And the British medic was reading the book, somebody would read, and he would do he soaked my face in hot water and got the bandages off that they'd put on, and so forth. In the meantime, Patton had crossed the Siegfried line, and he was coming in, and Patton is, I'm saying his army, coming in. I could hear the guns coming. I could hear both guns. And so they moved us out, and they moved that hospital down to Minegan over Mansfield, which is right over in this part, right in here, I guess. Might have been in here. But anyway, and over Mansfield, fortune smiled on me. I met a doctor who was the foremost dermatologist in the United Kingdom. He had been captured in Africa. And he said that if he'd give me skin grafts and my face would never be damaged and so forth. And so he did. And I laid there without antiseptic, by the way. We didn't have any antiseptic. So they took skin out of my, where I put it on my face. And so anyway, after that healed up in about a week or two, they sent me to another town in Minegan, which is real close to over Mansfield, where I stayed in a barracks, and it was an old theater, and they had put wire around it and prison camp out of it. And that's where we had the air raids. And
This is where the American planes would come over the camp?
yeah, well, American planes had always, they didn't know us from the enemy, so we were fair game. And so, but anyway, we were in this theater, and that's what I was talking about. We were talking about cats and mice and rats.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? Mr. Howell wrote a memoir, and in the memoir he mentions that at one point you ate mice and rats and a horse that was apparently killed by a plane.
Yeah, well, it's in the air raid.
So that probably wasn't the meal of choice. So what was the?
Well, our normal meal was eighth of a loaf of German bread and some grass soup, and it was about 600 or 800 calories a day. And we were losing weight, as you might, good diet, but we needed it. But so we welcomed anything that would, supplement we put in our diet. And we weren't particularly, we boiled it and things like that. We also got the Red Cross parcels, and we would get Red Cross parcels. I got 3 of them while I was in prison.
How long was it after? I'll ask this question, then we'll go out the crowd and see if there are any questions. How long was it after you were taken prisoner that your mom learned that you were still alive?
Okay, when I was in Minegan, there was a postcard there. The Red Cross had it, and you didn't write a letter. You just said that I'm alive and I'm a prisoner of war.
Was it you just checked a box?
You just check a box, and I checked that I was slightly injured. And of course, that's the first she heard from me after that mission. And then she didn't really hear from me until about 6 months later. I took it back till I wrote a letter and gave it to the American troops when they came through.
Do we have any questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, let's keep going. The war ended in May of 45.
I was liberated on April 29th.
So
At
just
town of
about,
Mooseburg, which is down right around here. And I was on a forced march down to get to it.
so you're liberated just shy of 2 weeks before the end of the war.
That's right.
In Europe.
That's right.
What was the atmosphere like in the camps when it became clear to the Germans that it's over, but yet you're still prisoners? What was that atmosphere like?
Well, the first thing, we're not prisoners, because as soon as we got liberated, which is the 29th, why, the guards disappeared. I mean, you wouldn't want to be a German guard on a prison camp, about 28,000 prisoners.
But how about, say, the week preceding that, when it's clear to the Germans that they're being pushed back, it's over, but the
well, we knew.
Americans
Okay,
aren't
we
here
knew
yet,
that.
so-
Matter of fact, we knew Patton was again chasing that after us, and down in our part there, because we could hear. We didn't know it was Patton, but we found out later. And so we did. Also, about a week before we were liberated, why the Americans flew a colonel in, and he was to organize the camp for evacuation, and he didn't do a very good job because we just walked out, a whole bunch of us. But anyway, we were going to walk back to Paris, and that was kind of stupid because it's a long way. We got up to, I don't know where the Danube River is. It's down in here, somewhere, Lancet, off of Danube. when we got there, there was a bunch of American Air Transport Command. And what had happened was they were going to take one British out for every 10 Americans. And within 2 days, the British are all gone. And just us Americans over there.
Why did they favor the Brits?
Huh?
Why did they favor the Brits over the
Well,
Americans?
they didn't favor, the British favored. The British
Oh.
run everything. And I don't mean to get, but anyway, this hospital I was in, you had to be almost British or dead to get in. I mean, I was closer to the latter.
Any questions?
But,
Okay, I'll keep going.
but anyway, so we started to walk out and we were going to just stop at farmhouses and get food on the way. Well, we stopped at farmhouses, they didn't have any food. Nobody had any food. The country has collapsed, it's in complete chaos. And so they didn't have food or anything else. So we finally got up to Lancet and they had the airfield there with these transport. The American pilots had refused to fly the British out. And the guy in charge was just trying to get the planes back in the air. So here we are, a group of, well, there's 6 in my group and there's about 20 others. And these are DC-3s, the old Goody bird. But anyway, they packed us in there and next day I'm in Paris. And I kissed the generals for liberating their country and I had fleas. And then they had fleas. And I had
Yeah, the
lice.
French generals.
Yeah. I had lice and then they had fleas.
Let me ask you this. Could you give us some names of guys you know who went to the war with you who didn't come back?
Well, my best friend, Carl McHenry, was one of them.
How did he die?
Huh?
How did he die?
Well, this is sketchy because I'm getting this from captured German material and out of the archives, because I didn't know. But I know that it was reported, and everybody had to write a report when they got out as to what they knew. And it was reported that he was back there in the back of the plane with the fire extinguisher trying to put the fire out.
At back of your plane.
Black our plane.
Huh.
And I don't know how he got out. The nose gunner, and I don't remember his name, didn't make it. And the pilot didn't make it, Weber, he didn't make it. And I feel that the pilot probably was a superhero. Because if, and I'm going to make it simple, if my bailout button didn't work and the intercom's out, maybe the automatic pilot is out too. And he may have stayed at the controls so the rest of us could get out. I mean,
And then the plane exploded before he...
captured German reports that I have found out later said that it exploded and then until where and so forth.
In combat, we just have a few minutes left, when a person is engaged in combat, you know, the question I want to ask is what matters, and obviously what matters is staying alive. But if somebody just put that question to you, what matters as you're heading, you know you're heading into combat, there's no question that in another minute or so, you're going to be in a combat situation. What sort of things are in a person's mind when he's heading into that sort of situation? What matters the most? Is he thinking about apple pie and the flag?
No.
What is that person thinking about
He's
as he's heading
thinking,
into combat?
and this is something that you've long thought of, but he's thinking that I don't want to be a cop. I've got a job to do. Can I perform? And that's really, and I don't care, I've talked to infantrymen too, and basically they're afraid that, you know, when the chips are down, will I be able to carry my share of the load? Will I be able to shoot that plane down?
And so you don't want to be a coward. And when we talked before, you referred to your crew as your family.
That is right. The crew, now the crew I was with was not, but my other crew, my original crew, we were families. We'd go to pass together. If somebody got in trouble, we'd go bail him out no matter what it was, you know. And even the officers who were somewhat aloof to us, we would kind of socialize with them when we'd go on a pass. I mean,
A pass meaning a...
well, in London, like I went to London. for 2
okay,
weeks.
a Liberty pass.
Liberty pass.
The last question, unless there's one from the crowd. Okay, Eve, go ahead, and then we'll go to Aaron. Go ahead.
You mentioned earlier that you watched some of the war movies. How much do you feel that people like us who only know it from that perspective, really understand that. Not just you know, the facts and the dates, but what was really going on with the individual people.
Well, first thing, I only remember my war. I don't remember the infantry. I don't, other than I had friends in the 106th were in prison camp with me, and I heard their stories. But it was not real to me. And so you say, what is true? The show, The Memphis Belle, how many of you have seen it? Okay. That bothered me. I mean, I was nervous after I watched that show because it brought it all back. I couldn't chase it away. Saving Private Ryan, that was an interesting movie. It didn't bother me. The noise of all the shells and so forth, but it didn't bring back things.
Says that wasn't your experience.
That wasn't an experience. I really was never in an infantry type situation. I was on forced marches as a prisoner, and I did get close to when they captured the prison camp I was in. That was combat and so forth. I heard that. I heard what was going on, and it just brought noise. But I was not a part of it. So I really don't know how to answer that other than I can say as to what an airman feels.
It's a common response from the veterans I've talked to that all they know about is the little world they were part of.
That's right.
And the rest of it's just sort of abstract. Let's go to Aaron. I think so. This will be the last question. All right, go ahead.
Your crew, you were 19. How old was everybody else? Were they all like under 25?
Well, the old man was 23. He's the pilot.
The pilot is the old man.
Yeah, he's the old man.
Is that what you call him?
Yeah. And then the navigator was 20 or 21. Now I'm going back to my original plane because the other people I don't really know. My flight engineer was a regular Army, and he had been in the Army about 6 years, and he was about 24 at the time. He was a top turret gunner and a flight engineer. But most of the wars like that are fought with a bunch of kids. And I guess the older people had better sense.
Did you ever see, last question, did you ever see, as Germans being pushed back, some of their troops would get younger and younger and younger. Did you ever see any of these German troops who were maybe 14, 15?
Yes, I did. When I was liberated, I was sent to what they call Camp Lucky Strike, which is out of Le Havre, France. And there they had chow lines that were 5 hours long. I mean, the mess halls couldn't handle all the people there. So we got the German captured prisoners there, and they got them to stand in chow line for us. And they were pretty young. There were some of those that were 15 and 16 years old. I did run into that. Now, they were perfectly willing to do that because we'd give them something, give them a cigarette or something. We didn't have much money.
So cigarettes, that was your currency?
Well, they came in Red Cross parcels, and then they handed them out, and the civilians liked them, so you could go to town.
Well,
One more.
is it a quick one?
I was wondering if your view of your father being an isolationist changed at all from being in war.
Well, no, I didn't mean that as, I probably agreed with my father when he did it at the time. I'm talking about the nation changed. My father, I, and all of us.
Pearl Harbor changed everything.
Well, yeah, Roosevelt, his reverse Lend-Lease, and I don't know if that's been covered in history.
Not yet. We'll get.
Well, anyway, he had reverse Lend-Lease in which he was supplying munitions to the British and so forth before the war started, before we got into it. And he knew that we needed to get into it because if Hitler were to completely win over Europe, then we would have to take him on home. And it's surprising to me that a country no bigger than that could stand the world with oil, gas, steel, and whatever to have a thing. And stand the United States, the British Empire, the French Empire. I mean, it's amazing to me that they could last only 6 years
And Hitler declared war on the States.
Yeah.
The U.S. declared war on Japan, and then Hitler...
Yeah, well, he had an agreement with Japan. Japan went to war with us. So,
Well, let's
Anyway.
give Mr. Howell a round of applause.